Welcome to RetinUp. I'm Scott Krzywonos.
And I'm John Kitchens.
We have a breaking news episode today of RetinUp. We're going to discuss the SOL-1 study data. This assessed Axpaxli for the treatment of wet AMD. This was a superiority trial that compared a single dose of Axpaxli and Eylea 2 milligram. The primary endpoint was the proportion of patients who maintained vision at 36 weeks, and that was defined as patients who lost less than 15 letters. John, there's a lot to unpack. We're going to have some experts on a future show to help us understand these data. But let's start at the top. What does this mean for patients?
Well, Scott, I think any new drug that has a positive study, particularly a superiority study, which is a really kind of first of its kind to have a superiority study, is offering our patients something different. And, for 20 years, we've been talking about traditional anti-VEGF therapies. And now we're talking about something different, a tyrosine kinase inhibitor,
Mm-hmm.
which is just a completely different mechanism. It blocks a little bit more downstream. But I think the real thing for our patients is the durability that was demonstrated in this study. Now, it's a strange study. It's a little bit odd in how it's
Mm-hmm.
designed with input from the FDA and whatnot, but pretty compelling evidence that you get 24 to 36 to maybe even in some patients 52 weeks of control, and that would be unprecedented for something that we can deliver in clinic.
And that's after a single injection.
That's after a single injection. Now, keep in mind, Scott, in this study, all patients got 2 initial doses of aflibercept, 2 milligrams. They had to show a really good response. These had to kind of be like your really rapid responders, which it's thought that those patients may be more labile as far as their disease activity. And then the third injection was either Axpaxli or it was aflibercept 2 milligrams. And then they just let it ride until the patients lost 3 lines of vision, and then they could be rescued as much as they want. So yeah, it was a single injection after 2 anti-VEGF loads. The thinking there is that the traditional anti-VEGFs work a little more quickly. So you're going to get a greater drying effect.
Okay. So yeah, a lot of these patients, they started off strong, right? Some of them even had 20/20 vision, or they had gained, I think, at least 10 letters, 10 ETDRS letters by the time, kind of week 0 happened after their first 2 injections. I would say, interestingly, 74% of patients not losing 15 letters at week 36 in the Axpaxli arm. That's pretty big compared to the 59% of Eylea patients. The non-rescue patients were interesting too, right? About 75% of Axpaxli patients didn't require rescue at all.
Yeah, that was what was really impressive is when you look at those patients that didn't need any rescue therapy, but the group did pretty well as well. If you look at
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
aflibercept group, I mean, it was more than you would expect. I think it was about 50% of patients that did not need a rescue treatment, and that's very atypical.
More data will be presented at the Macula Society at the end of the month in about 2 weeks. Can we talk a little bit about the study design? This was a superiority study. As you said earlier, there was input from FDA that cleared the way for this design, which is pretty strange. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, it's a first of its kind. And when you think about superiority, there's 2 ways you can get superiority. You can either look at gaining 3 or more lines of vision, 15 letters, or prevention of 3 or more lines lost. They looked at the prevention of 3 or more lines lost. Really, we haven't seen that done since the days of Anchor and Marina as a primary outcome or PDT. So it's kind of hearkening back to the old days, but it's kind of a little bit of a way that you could, I don't want to say game the system, but it's a way that you could design a study that could demonstrate the durability in a way that the FDA wanted, because the FDA wants you giving comparator injections at the same frequency as the investigational drug.
There's nothing wrong with studying to the test, right? In the same way that there's nothing wrong with designing a study to reach a regulatory endpoint. If FDA says that they want this, then you design a study to achieve that so that this drug can then get on the market. And then once it's put in your hands and your colleagues' hands, you see what happens.
You're exactly right, Scott. It's going to be the same thing that we did with Avastin, the same thing we did with Eylea, the same thing we've done with the next generation anti-VEGFs, Vabysmo, Eylea HD. Put it in our hands. Let us figure out how to use it, and we will figure it out.
The market didn't love this news. The stock dropped about 25% after the announcement, which is befuddling to me because the data look pretty good. I mean, if you just want to say it modestly, there's at least a very high likelihood that another option exists on the market and that that other option looks really good. Help me understand what happened.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I cannot understand the market at all. I thought a positive superiority study with so many patients not requiring rescue treatment would be a blockbuster and would send the stock up. It's funny, the competitor EyePoint that also has a TKI in development, their stock went up. Ocular Therapeutix stock went down some. I'm
Yeah.
sure it's going to even out as time goes by. It's exciting, though, Scott, to have something new, a new mechanism, a new option, particularly something that can give us enhanced durability.
Patients have the internet. Patients will come across these data somehow, or their kids will. What do you say to the patient that comes into your office and is excited about this new drug that isn't even available yet? I mean, how do you concisely communicate to them what this means potentially, but also what this means realistically?
You know what we always love to do, Scott, is let patients know that there's something more coming. You know, we want them to feel like we want patients to know that this is an incredibly active area of investigation, and it's great when you can walk in and say, "I know you're getting tired of these frequent injections." But in the next 6 months or next year, there might be this new therapy that's approved by the FDA that might allow patients to go 6 or 9 or even 12 months, and it's with an injection that we can give here in clinic. So stay tuned, and here's what to watch for as far as the drug is concerned. And for those patients that are really interested, I think it's a great thing.
Let's end with you and your colleagues. What are you all expecting in the next, say, 6 or 12 months? I know that there's another non-inferiority study, the SOL-R study. There's also a planned NDA submission to FDA, but what else are you looking for?
Yeah, so in the SOLAR study, you're going to have a different type of patient. These are going to be patients that have more loading doses running in. They're going to be a little bit more of your chronic disease patients. There's a thought actually that it actually might, based off the SOL-1 data, that SOL-R type patients actually might achieve an even greater 6 month and 9 month duration because of the way the blood vessels are and the activity level of those blood vessels. I'm really curious to see if the FDA is going to approve this with one phase 3 study. The FDA has made overtures that they're willing to approve drugs with one phase 3 study. They have a SPA, which is a special protocol assessment. It means that the FDA has given this study the green light and said, this is what we want to see in a study.
Meaning Ocular Therapeutix has that clearance. They have
They
that
have that
SPA.
clearance. So
Okay.
it's very possible that if the FDA likes this data, that we might have this drug in 2027, which would be awesome.
We can get into a discussion of pricing and how it would actually fit into a practice and a treatment regimen later. In fact, we are going to have another episode of RetinUp dedicated to this topic. We're going to dive deeper with a couple of experts. But for now, this was our emergency episode of RetinUp. Thanks for joining us.